Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. As today, I imagine we've still got a fair bit of business to tend to, as well as a boatload of bookkeeping, level ups, cargo, colonies, companions. So we'll just keep chipping away. Also, Abby's been very patient with us, so, let's perhaps let him go and see whatever comes next. Ah, Adira. Adira hurriedly enters the hall, sniffing and hunching her shoulders. She looks haggard. There are bags under her eyes, her hair is disheveled, and her hands quiver slightly every few moments. With some effort, she focuses her eyes on you, then forces a crooked smile. Thank you for agreeing to hear me out, Lord Captain. Here's the deal. After all that happened recently, the voices in my head suddenly flared up and started gabbling worse than before. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm handling them just fine. But I think I know of a way I can get them to settle down a bit. I keep having the same dream over and over again. I'm walking down a corridor and there's this door at the end. And I just know that right behind that door is blissful silence. All I've got to do is reach out and open it. So I touch it with my fingers. I can feel the cold, rough metal. And then I suddenly snap out of it, and always find myself staring at a wall in some compartment or other. I look behind me and all the doors on the way are open. But I have no memory of how I got there. Lord Captain, I'll cut to the chase. Please, help me find that door. I'm not joking, this is a matter of life and death. My gut tells me it's my last chance to deal with my powers. And if I don't... She trails off. Adira, I'd love to help, but you have to know how this sounds. I'll need more details first. Absolutely, Lord Captain. Ask me anything, and I'll try my best to answer. This door you're describing, you have no idea what's really behind it? Just silence? I have no idea. Maybe it's some incredible implant from the Tech Priest secret stores, or, I don't know, a serum kept in the Inquisition's vault. There's such a thing as archaeotech, right? Plenty of it lying around. Maybe some of it could help me. Adira is trying to maintain a facade of confidence while simultaneously pulling at a hangnail so hard her finger begins to bleed. Okay, yes, I guess those are all possibilities. Any idea where this door might actually be? Vague ones, as usual. I think I can hear the muffled cries of some weird birds, and my head is sweating like it's somewhere hot. I'm surrounded by rotcrete, your everyday Imperium stuff, except it reeks of burnt flesh, fried cables, and chemicals. Sorry, that's about it. Nothing more concrete, but I think if we get close enough, I'll sense it immediately. Okay, that's something. Haven't you described your voices as coming from behind a door? You're sure that these two aren't one and the same? No. Well, I don't know. It feels different. The one from the visions feels very, I don't know, real? I can even touch it. It's definitely not an illusion. It really does exist somewhere. And trust me, neither of us wants to open the other door. The whispering one. Uh-huh. That does sound about right. And, even if we can suppress your powers, you realize that will probably come with some pretty nasty side effects. We've all heard the stories. Madeira snorts. Oh, it's really not that bad. I'm sure you've heard stories about how people tried to lock psychers' abilities away for good, and how those psychers would then eventually go insane and explode into little pieces. But if there's a way, no, not to shut my door completely, but to make it so a tiny little crack remains, now that's a different story. I can just feel it. If we find this thing, whatever it is, it'll all be all right. And if it is a trap, if whatever's behind that door is something deliberately trying to lure you in? No way, it can't be. Whatever, I'll go in alone if you like. Just, please, help me get there. Okay, alright, I suppose that is an option. Adira nods and looks at you anxiously. Look, Adira, I've got to say, I don't want to knock it, but I don't love the way you're framing this door. But I can see that you're running out of options, and you did help me when I was just getting started, so sure, we'll do what we can to find this thing. I'm just not sure this is going to end the way you're hoping it will. Some of the darkness in Adira's eyes clears, and her smile widens slightly. Thank you, Lord Captain. I knew you wouldn't leave me in a bind. As soon as I sense we're close, I'll let you know right away. Great. Looking forward to it. Oh, Jai. You already had your turn. What's going on here? The Exalted One bless the House of Von Valancius for your largesse of spirit, Shireen, and thank you for deigning to speak with me. Jai turns unusually hesitant, now tentatively choosing the words that only a moment ago rolled off her tongue in an uninterrupted cascade. Here's the thing, Shireen. My network of trade representatives has been stretched a little too thin recently, like a chiffon dress on a lady of ill repute. Supplies are all over the place, orders aren't being filled, clients are kicking off, and not without reason, and revenue's plummeting. Okay. And if that wasn't bad enough, my guys running things from Footfall have been incommunicado recently, and an astropathic message has finally come in to tell me why. Some Ashmag, or Ashmags thrown smite them, has captured my gang. And they're threatening to kill every last one of those hard-grafting whelps if I don't do what they want. And they want only one thing. My Mercatum Tabula Officiale, in exchange for my gang's lives. Jai tosses her thick mane of hair and grits her teeth, looking more vicious than you have ever seen her. But I'm not giving up my certificate for anything, and nor am I going to leave my guys high and dry. That's why I am begging for your help and protection, Shireen. If I have to step into a cage of hyenas, I'd rather do it with a lion at my side. Oh, I do like the cat analogy. You know me too well, Jai. It's a problem. So who sent this message? Shireen, you know yourself that all this astropathic chit-chat is nothing but a stream of images, thoughts, intentions. Nothing concrete. But I don't need the name of the sender. I already know it. I can smell Falco's stench all over this. Or else it's Ladain's doing. This is just that damned Ashmag style. Ozzy, take him. Okay, so you don't know who it is. You're just naming every character on Footfall with a portrait. Minus, what's-her-face? Octavia. Still weird that she has a portrait when she plays such a seemingly minor role. There's definitely more to that one than they're letting on. I hate to say it, but, it could just be a bluff. even if they were really kidnapped. Killing them would just mean giving up their collateral. It could be, Shireen. But I've been missing the familiar stench of the docks, and darling Octi and her bar, and even the stony face of the Exalted One that watches over you wherever you are on footfall. I'm homesick, you see? The tender smile vanishes from Jai's face, leaving a nakedly bleak expression behind. The Exalted One helps those who help themselves, Shireen, and I don't want to risk the lives of my people. And you know what? I respect that. Again, Jai, I really wish this is who you'd been from the get-go. I mean, I get why you weren't for story purposes, but man, you are just so much more likable now. Okay. You know, we're headed to Footfall shortly anyway. While we're there, I'll help you get this all sorted. I look forward to that day, Shireen. And praise be to the Exalted One for bestowing such a miserly portion of haughty indifference upon your heart. Sure, yeah, that's kind of a weird way to phrase that, but you're welcome, question mark? Oh boy, here we go. Valin. Heinrichs gives you a curt nod in greeting. I apologize for barging in unannounced. I have received news that I must discuss with you, face to face. Uh-huh. You may recall that I mentioned that Achilles... Heinrichs pauses before continuing. That Achilles Scalander was transferred into my remit by a colleague. The colleague in question has contacted me. She requires my immediate assistance. Does she now? And related to Achilles, too. Pray tell, who might this colleague be? Heinrichs hesitates for a moment before answering. Emelina Lichtenhart, sage to the Lord Inquisitor. Oh, okay. I didn't actually expect you to give me a straight answer, but, Huh. Emelina, can't say I've heard of her. Tell me more. She's an acolyte who was assigned a different range of objectives in the Coronis Expanse. Heinrichs trails off and shakes his head. Throne take me, I am still trying to hide information from you even when I am asking for your help. Emelina is a sage, a unique acolyte of the Inquisition who can absorb huge amounts of knowledge and store it in her own memory more securely than any data crypt. She entered the Lord Inquisitor's retinue before even I did. Talking to her is a strange experience, but that is barely scratching the surface of who she is. Emelina is an incredible scholar, an expert on the forbidden and the illicit. And of course, she is a loyal servant to the Golden Throne. I say. Well, I'll admit, Heinrichs, you have certainly captured my attention. You said talking to her was strange. Strange how? Heinrichs locks his fingers and says nothing for a few seconds. Since birth, Emelina has been different from other people. Specialists from the Inquisition enhanced her natural gift of hypermnesia. There are certain procedures that can be done. She creates separate blocks of memory, which she can then lock under a code word or even overwrite with new information. She can organize her mind like a normal person arranges boxes on a shelf. So they basically turned her into like a partitioned biological hard drive? One box might contain information about a recent mission in the Calixes, another the latest decree of the Lex Imperialis, and another her own childhood memories. This level of compartmentalization might seem somewhat insane to the untrained eye, but it is the price one must pay to turn an ordinary servant into a useful tool of the Inquisition. Right, of course. And you say she's now used to store Dangerous and forbidden knowledge. Amelina carries knowledge that is forbidden to common servants of the Imperium. She carries this knowledge within herself, as it cannot be entrusted to logs or cogitators. Heinrichs frowns. I said before that acolytes of the Inquisition must shoulder a heavy burden. To come into contact with things that can penetrate and corrupt the soul. For sages, this is an especially trying ordeal. Emelina's hypermnesia has been enhanced, so that she now remembers everything she sees, however briefly. After many years of service, she has examined and seen enough to become an unrivaled expert in this field. Yeah, that sounds safe. So why exactly are you telling me all this? It's rare for you to be so forthcoming. Heinrichs gives you a crooked smile. Emelina was something of a mentor to me. She helped me when I had only just joined the Lord Inquisitor's circle. She taught me psi techniques to maintain my focus and equanimity. She trained me in the finer details of working with archives and data crypts. She gave me the chance to unwind a little in my post by playing games of regicide with her. So she means so much to you, and yet somehow you never once thought to even mention her name, let alone that she was also active in the Coronis Expanse? I didn't fail to mention it. I deliberately concealed the information. Divulging the location of the Inquisition's agents could threaten not only the acolytes themselves, but also the results of their endeavors. Fair enough. And now that we've established some context, tell me about this message you suddenly received. Of course. Emelina's message is incomplete and distorted. It is impossible to make sense of every word. The only thing we know for certain is that an acolyte of the Inquisition is asking me to go immediately to Phaeton 4, a remote planet. In her message, she seemed to be requesting either military support or help with an evacuation. But whatever precipitated this request, Emelina would not make it if it weren't absolutely necessary. I honestly can't tell if he's being sincere here or if this is all just part of an elaborate setup to confront us about Achilles. I know a rogue trader has more than enough other matters to deal with. Nevertheless, I would like to officially request the Lord Captain's assistance in dealing with this issue. Heinrichs inclines his head. I have no authority to demand anything from House von Valancius. Therefore, I am confining myself to a request, for the sake of the Coronis Expanse and the Imperium. I'll take it under consideration, but first, a few more questions. How exactly did you get this message before I did? The interrogator's eyebrows lift. Lord Captain, a rogue trader may be in a position to challenge the Inquisition's authority over their soul, mind, and actions. But a rogue trader's astropaths and vox officers? Hardly. Sure, that tracks. And Phaeton 4, I'm not sure we've encountered that one. Any idea what's going on? Heinrich says nothing for a time, then begins to speak, slowly as though he is fighting against resistance. For the avoidance of leaks, the details of the objectives of specific acolytes shall remain a secret. All I can tell you is that the primary threat that Emelina was dealing with in the Coronis Expanse was Xenos. In particular, Drukhari raids on distant systems. A sage is ideally suited for gathering data about the chronology of this problem and finding appropriate methods for combating it. Oh, interesting. Okay, so maybe I'm coming at this from the wrong angle. As for what Emelina is doing on Phaton 4 specifically, I don't know. I don't even know any details about the world itself. Only that there are humans there, so either it has been colonized, or a garrison has been established there. The Cult of the Final Dawn has been my top priority here, and my investigation has given me no cause to turn my attention to that planet. Okay, you know what, now I'm starting to think that this might actually be how Marazai found out about Scalander in the first place. He couldn't get the information from me, so perhaps he pried it out of Emelina instead. So what exactly is the Inquisition offering if I assist with this matter? Saving an inhabited world is not sufficient incentive for you? Heinrich tuts in disappointment. I imagine the planet's inhabitants would be willing to part with all their worldly possessions in exchange for aid. Of course, you will also receive whatever requisitioned resources I and Emelina deem not to be dangerous or prohibited by the Holy Inquisition. Well, that does sound enticing, and I do like saving people, but, is this an actual recorded official request of the Imperium or the Inquisition, or is this a personal favor just because one of your own happens to be in trouble? Every agent of the Golden Throne is an insignificant cog in a system designed to protect the Imperium of Man. My responsibility to respond expeditiously to threats against our kind guides my every action. Heinrich pauses. That same responsibility rarely brings with it the chance to save a fellow agent's life. I will not lie and say that I am not glad to have this chance today. Okay, fair enough. I mean, it might still be a setup, but he's done a pretty good job of selling it. And of course, we're not just going to ignore a quest, so... Very well, I'll certainly look into it. Heinrich bows. Thank you, Lord Captain. I am confident that this minor deviation from our primary course will help to stem the spread of anarchy in the Coronis Expanse, if only slightly. At the very least, we won't be outflanked. I have already spoken to the navigation crew and provided them with the coordinates of Phaton 4. We can set course for it as soon as you give the order. Right, because of course you did. Well, we'll deal with it. Oh, shoot, that's our active party. Well, here we go. Enough, Xenos. Justice will be done, one way or another. Heinrich's voice drips with venom. Slither all you like, heretic spawn, but you will never leave this ship unscathed. I mean, Argenta, you of all people should be the last one talking. You killed Mort. And also a rogue trader, I guess. The bridge is enveloped in an unusual silence. The officers on duty are huddling in the corners, looking on curiously at what is transpiring in the center. Oh, we could confront Heinrichs about Achilles, but he's not going to admit to anything in front of all these people. Catching sight of you, the curious crew members dash to their posts, leaving only the senior officers in the middle of the bridge. For how long are you going to tolerate this filth on your ship, Valen? This foul traitor, who has already dragged you into the darkness once, and who almost left your protectorate without its sovereign. Argenta, really? Rogue traitor. Heinrich's voice makes your blood run cold. Has Eldari heresy clouded your judgment? Treachery always means death, either for the traitor or the one betrayed. You almost died in Camorra. Your retinue You know what became of them. Is it not high time that justice was done? Oh, maybe I should have brought up Achilles. That might have short-circuited this whole thing. Also, timing's a little awkward considering he just asked us for a personal favor. Feels like they really should have maybe rearranged the order these events played out in. Those present nod wordlessly, but do not dare to interfere. Except Argenta, who's already shouted twice. Also Ulfar. Now this is a fine spectacle. The Inhuman gets what she deserves. Let us all watch and laugh. I mean, Ulfar, not for nothing, but while she may have made some very questionable decisions that led to a lot of undesirable results, it also did result in a whole bunch of dead Drukhari. Not to mention rescuing a certain space wolf. Urliette does not react to the curses being slung at her. With an imperturbable expression, she watches the crowd before her, then turns her gaze to you. Well, since we're all apparently just shouting things out, would anyone else like to join the chorus? If you have something to say, now's your chance. You have my official permission. You know, Lord Captain, I will support any order you give. But to keep the Xenos in the retinue, especially after everything... Abelard casts a tense look at the lower bridge. After everything that has transpired because of her, it would not be wise. Oh, Abby, you're killing me, bud. The enemies of humanity have no place among humans. You know this. Cassia's hands shake a little, and she clenches her fists. But death is far too merciful a sentence. What I endured was far more terrible.
The heinous behavior pattern of a xeno entity and the specimen similar to her statistically leads to unfavorable and unpredictable outcomes.
Et tu, Pask? Urliette blankly surveys the crowd. Oh, gosh, yeah, like half our responses are to just kill her outright. And the rest are all pretty... Oh, man, come on. We can't actually discuss or debate this. We just have to make a sentence here and now. No nuance, no persuasion. I mean, look, obviously we're not killing her. Especially not at the request of someone like Argenta. Though I will admit it does give me a bit more pause to hear it from Abby and Pask. And I mean, in respect to Abby's statement at least, she won't be part of our active retinue anymore. She'll be stuck on the bench aside from her 1 or 2 remaining companion quests. Given his own history, I don't see Valen leaning on corporal punishment. I mean, it sounds trite, but I think we have to go for a heartfelt apology. I've already discussed this matter with Urliette at length, hence why I said this case was closed. But if you still feel wronged, if you still feel that she should accept responsibility, I assure you she has. You may not trust her as a companion, but she does still serve a valuable role as our ambassador to the Aldari Enclave on Janus, and thus she will remain on board. Urliette, I'm sure you have something to add? Urliette's face contorts in a mix of emotions, from anger and hatred to dejection and despair. But soon she musters her courage and in a stilted, barely audible voice says, My words will not heal the wounds on your bodies, and still I regret what you had to endure. Because of me. Words will not fix what has been done. The interrogator grips his weapon, but he hesitates, shifting his intense gaze from you to the Xenos, and then back. The Xenos' apologies ring hollow, There is neither repentance nor truth to them. Oh my goodness. Argenta, You know what? I honestly, genuinely don't think that Yurliette's the most obstinate person on the ship, because she at least does seem to have actual semblance of self-reflection. Oh, and I guess that's it. Okay, good. Disappointed by the outcome of the confrontation, the officers present slowly return to their duties. Yurliette? How you holding up there? Yurliette shrugs uncertainly. Your monkey have had it worse. I will live, and the wounds of my soul will eventually heal. They will live too, but their souls will forever bleed painful memories. Well, you know, just give it time. Life is a learning experience. Eventually, some of them may come to forgive you. Right now, the wounds are just still too raw. Stop it. You cannot believe that, Elentek. I do not need words of comfort. The words of these monkey do not touch my soul. Only your thoughts matter. Yours and mine. You do realize that's exactly the sort of attitude that got you into this mess in the first place, right? A learning experience is only useful if you're actually willing to learn. So tell me, do you really not care what they think? Or are you just saying that because you don't want to acknowledge how much it's actually hurting you? I am sorry that my mistake led anyone along the paths of the Dark City. I can see their pain and rage. I understand. But words and pity will not help them. Only time and perhaps revenge, which will dull their pain for a little while. But you have taken away their chance for revenge, Elentek. And all we can do now is wait. And on that we agree. Forgiveness is earned, not simply given. If you're willing to put in the work, you might eventually find it. Yurliette nods and gestures elegantly before leaving. Until we meet again, Elentek. May the darkness scatter into a myriad of new stars before you. Oh, hey, level up. And also, freedom! Hey, who's a pretty girl? Hey, Cece, how you doing, sweetheart? Sitting down here waiting patiently for some attention. Oh, you're such a cutie. What are you looking at, Rain? But yeah, that wasn't actually too bad. That was like, I don't know, maybe an hour and change worth of events there. Too much for one episode, so I'll have to split it, but honestly, I was expecting worse. That's it. Let's hit the pause button real quick. I'll canvas the bridge, see what else we need to do while we're here. Do some inventory stuff, figure out these level ups, see how much time we have left to play with. And then we'll round this thing out. Be right back. And we are back. It's a couple of hours later, but the bulk of our cargo is taken care of. I'd canvassed the bridge and earmarked the important bits, though I will say, shockingly light, all things considered. And then, obviously, I've already locked in our level ups, but let's run through that real quick. Go over the highlights. This time out, everyone got a Tier 2 ability, as well as a stat boost. And in Valen's case, I went ahead and grabbed Elusive Shadow, which, he usually ends up with, like, one action point floating at the end of his turns anyway. So I figured this would be a good thing to do with it. This automatically makes him lowest priority target until his next turn, at which point, if I'm reading this correctly, it also boosts his first attack of that round. And then aside from that, we also bump Perception. For Kibbles, And she, of course, is slightly more complicated because she fell several levels behind whilst sitting out of Act 3. So we'll just kind of skim down here. You can see more or less what I did. A lot of it's pretty straightforward. I think I even mentioned a lot of it as we were unlocking things like Peak Condition or Perfection Under Fire. But beyond that, it's honestly really just a lot of little bumps. Wherever we could fit things in. Medicaid boosts, agility boosts. And then as for these 4, you can see I didn't even bother with them just yet. None of them are actually part of our current active party, so I figure we'll just tackle them as their companion quests come up. Beyond that, we've got Ulfar. And Ulfar picked up Devastating Attack, which, although I don't see making regular use of it, I do think will pair fantastically with his occasional suppressing fire. The flamethrower is already stacked pretty heavy with various other debuff effects, so this will add a chance to permanently blind anyone who is caught in that fire. Though I suppose we could use it with his other attacks as well, in which case it would add bleeding and slowed. And then we bumped his agility. Yurliette, obviously on the bench aside from her companion quests, but I already knew what I was doing with her, so I figured we might as well. I grabbed Piercing Shot. That one's pretty self-explanatory. And then bumped her with a Ballistic Skill Chaser. After that, we have Cass, and this one, this was fun. I considered all our options, and I did not go with the best choice, but I went with the one I thought would be the most fun. Touch of Anger. Since, I've had my eye on that one for a while now, and I have had a boatload of fun with all the forced move abilities. And then aside from that, rounded her willpower up to a nice even 90. We'll come back to Pask. And as for Abby, he picked up Wall of Rockcrete. A nice little group buff for our now suddenly melee-centric party. And then also bumped up his weapon skill, since obviously he was struggling with that a bit towards the end of Act 3. Though in part that's also because of his low agility, but between agility and weapon skill, it just felt like he'd get more use out of weapon skill. Though we may bump his agility later down the line. Which, yes, just leaves Pask, who, as previously alluded, has gone through a full respec, primarily to take advantage of his new organization. And I will say it definitely paid off in that regard. He's actually better at Xenotech now, or Xenos lore rather, than Yurliette is. But then, as per usual, because I'd already cracked him open, I figured, what the heck? Might as well rearrange a few other things while we're in there. So while he is largely similar to how he was before, minus the obvious shift from Demolitions to Xenos lore, I also took the opportunity to push him a bit more towards a bit of a hybrid build. He's still really good with the axe, 105 weapon skill, but I also made sure to shore up his ballistic skills a bit, most notably by dropping Joint Analysis, which we never used, and replacing it with Perfect Spot, and then also shifting a few of his attribute bumps from agility over into ballistic skill, since without Demolitions, we didn't really need agility. Though I will say, it didn't really come to fruition, it didn't really gel, until the very end of Tier 2. That makes it more viable. And then aside from that, since, of course, we had now tanked our agility, medium armor agility build wasn't really viable for melee, so I leaned back into heavy. Though I have not picked up Fires of the Forge again just yet, that's on my list. I did, however, pick up all of his remaining mechadendrites, since we now have an actual factual use for them. So yeah, it's a bit of a hodgepodge mix, but hopefully it should work out. For now, though, I've got to say, Pascal is looking pretty impressive. Our boy's got all his mechadendrites back, plus some extra armor plating to boot. And, a proper tech priest sidearm. Though I am debating meltas. We have a few meltas to choose from, too. The plasma just felt more practical. And then, like I said, 105 weapon skill, certainly not bad. And a slightly more modest 78 ballistic skill. Until he uses Perfect Spot. Then that bumps up to 103. We'll see how it works out for us. Though I will say, the other big game changer is going to be all of our new gear. Because boy, oh boy. After spending some time with Danrock, too much time, honestly. Yeah, we've got a few things to pick up. But yeah, you can see our numbers have shifted pretty substantially here. We'll try to keep it quick, but there is a lot to touch on. First up, our meager offerings from the Drusians, starting with the Dark Visionary Hood. Plus 10 to willpower, plus 15% damage on psychic and navigator powers, but a minus 10 penalty to weapons and ballistic skill. No big deal for a character like Adira or possibly Cassia, so some possibilities there. And Rusty Rocksaw. Less possibilities there, but, we'll take it. Which is it for the Drusians for now, but I am going to try to crank them in Act 4. Should be a whole lot easier once we've capped out Explorators. Speaking of whom, boy oh boy, we do have a fair few unlocks here. As you can see, we're just 3 tiers short of fully capping out, which I think might be the actual endpoint for the game. I don't know if it increases again. There's only 2 acts left, and I think Act 5 is pretty short. Sadly, we are currently limited by our profit factor. We are not infinitely rich enough to actually buy everything, despite it otherwise being unlocked. So we'll just focus on the stuff that is currently within our price range. Including the assorted consumables, no big deal, but we'll go ahead and grab those real quick. Some of which are unique, which kind of works against them, because that just makes me want to use them even less, since they can't be replaced. But as for the more persistent fare, we've got some doozies here, starting with the Omnissiah Holy Symbol. Plus 20 tech use and plus 20 logic, as well as rerolls on failed checks. Honestly, probably going to toss that to Valen. It does feel like a much better fit for him than Lady Theodora's Ashes. Though Pask is also in the running as well. I just have to double check what he has in his next slot. Either way, we're definitely getting some use out of it. Next up, Dark Providence. A mid-tier force sword, which rerolls failed parry checks using willpower. Kind of fun, might be a good fit for Heinrichs. Followed by a Mars Pattern Power Axe. Decent one-hander, but nothing to necessarily write home about. Improved Lightweight Boots. The wearer gains plus parry and rerolls failed dodge checks. Halfway decent, might find room for it. The Volition Inhibitor. When the wearer uses controlled shot, any enemies adjacent to the wearer's allies suffer a penalty to dodge against the wearer's next attack. Way too fiddly, definitely not bothering. Solar Staff, high-end Pyromancer Staff. We haven't really gone that route, so again, probably cargo. Metal Claw Gloves. Whenever the wearer hits a target with a melee attack, the target's armor is reduced by 2 stacks. I feel like we'd be killing most targets too fast for that to really matter. And Forge World Skitarii Ranger Armor. That one is interesting, in part because it's Pascal only. And I will say, if we had stuck with an agility medium armor build, I think this would probably be our go-to. But as it stands, since I went heavy, we have no real use for it. We'll have some significantly better options later down the line, but we'll circle back to that. And finally, we have the Commander's Visor. We don't use Break Their Ranks, so this one's pretty much useless to us. Bit of a shame, but that one might also be consigned to cargo. Which is all we can afford from the Explorators for now. However, we will need to make sure we swing back by as we further increase our profit factor, because there are some very nice upgrades just a bit further out. This one in particular. Though this holy power armor, too. Oh, shoot. Okay, so that's Ulfar only. Gotcha. Still, certainly worth grabbing. But for now, we move on to the Kaspalika, whom we did gain a few ranks with, but not a ton. I will admit, to a certain extent, I didn't really pile on to this one, because a lot of the gear they have to offer just isn't really useful to us. Though there are still a few things here and there. Just not enough to go in too heavy with them just yet, but they do have some interesting consumables. I wish there was a way we could actually restock them again. While I would love to use them, I feel bad using consumables I know we'll never be able to replace. But that said, back to the realm of actual upgrades. Mazoa Pattern Astartes Bolt Pistol. Easy upgrade for Ulfar. Followed by Stalking Boots. If the wearer has a melee weapon equipped in both hands, their slash ability makes an additional melee attack with a secondary weapon. So really only just useful to Heinrichs or Abby. And Abby, I want to say, has better boots. Heinrichs is a maybe. Cloak of Bloodthirst. If the wearer's target is suffering from bleeding, the wearer's melee attacks deal an additional plus 2% damage for each point of the target's agility bonus. Okay, well that's a weird one because it scales off the enemy's stats, not your own. But extra damage is extra damage, and someone like Kibbles would definitely get some use out of that. The downside being that her cloak slot is already pretty permanently tied up with the Death from Above cloak. I just don't really see us switching off of it. Next up, Abyssal Conduit. Every second use of a Psyker Staff's unique psychic power deals plus damage. Might toss that to Adira. I'll have to see what she's currently wearing. Laughing God's Pendant. The wearer gains the Dance Macabre ability. Oh, that's interesting. Actually, yeah, I mean, aside from just granting access to Dance Macabre, there's no other side effects or anything, so... You know what? I do currently, on Kibbles, have the Anatomist Amulet. Plus 2 stacks whenever you inflict DOTs. But Dance Macabre might be... I'm gonna have to think on that one. That plus her Impact Boots might make for a better combo. Beyond that, not much else from the Kaspalika. We've got the Breath of Purgation, an Aldari Flamethrower. Very strange. Black Heart Cabalite Armor. Pretty much useless to us. And Slayer's Delight, which would be useful if it weren't locked to Drukhari, but sadly, we'll have to take a pass on that otherwise exceptional bonus damage on two-handed melee. Though on the bright side, that's a quarter stack of Xeno artifacts. Which brings us to our last list. The Pirates, whom we gained a substantial number of ranks with. And again, there was a good reason for that, but we'll work our way up to it. Swashbuckler Cloak. Whenever the wearer is dual-wielding melee weapons, they gain plus 10 weapon skill and plus 15 critical damage. Honestly, not bad. I'll have to compare it to the cloak I have on Abby. Modified Splinter Pistol, no big deal. Arch Militant's Boots. Whenever the wearer performs a melee attack after a ranged attack, the target must pass a toughness resistance check or fall prone. I don't think we have anyone who can really make use of that. Ulfar can't wear them, otherwise I think he'd be the only one. Deathworld Armored Body Glove. Halfway decent light armor, though perhaps not comparable to what we've already got. I'll run the numbers off screen. Truce's Prime Shotgun, no big deal. And Breacher Boots. Whenever the wearer's area attacks damage at least 2 enemies within 2 cells from the wearer gains the kick ability. Meh. Awakened Nightmare. Fairly low tier 4 sword, grants plus... Oh, increases Veil Degradation and plus damage. Scaling off Psyker rank, I guess. Earthbreaker. Unique Power Maul. Which debuffs enemy agility, toughness, and strength per swing, even if parried or dodged. Not awful. Swift Shadow. Once per turn, after the wearer uses Blood Oath or Oath of Vengeance, they gain 1 free use of dash. I mean, it's not really free. Both of those abilities come with a pretty hefty health tax. I think we'll pass on that one. Grimoire of the Void. The Grimoire increases the chance of triggering psychic phenomena by 15%. And all warp damage dealt by the wielder is increased. Well, that's actually pretty fun. At least for the high-risk, high-reward Psyker builds. LD Pattern Industrial Hammer. Pretty straightforward. It's a Thunder Hammer, albeit with an industrial skin. Poet's Grace. Plus 25 Commerce, plus 25 Persuasion. Elegant in its simplicity. I could have sworn that was actually an Aeldari-only item before. I guess they must have revised it. Now, I might almost be tempted to use it, though, unfortunately, Cass has no shortage of headgear to choose from. Precinct Vox Relay. If an ally under the effect of the wearer's Bring It Down ability successfully hits an enemy or targets them with an ability, the wearer gains +1 fellowship and willpower until the end of combat for each different enemy hit or targeted. Way too fiddly, definitely not worth it. Carnage, unique Chain Axe, which increases crit damage by 25% on each successful hit. That's kind of bonkers. Not sure we have a spot for that, but maybe. Yinnialth? Yinnialith? Aeldari Long Rifle. Halfway decent stats. Dodge reduction plus 40 versus Drukhari and Aeldari. Might toss that to Yurliet. Plus yet more unique consumables. And Bone Shatterer. A unique stub pistol. No, a unique foe hammer. All types of physical damage dealt to targets hit by the shotgun pistol are increased by plus 33% for 2 rounds. Interesting. Demolition Instructions. The wearer gains plus 25 demolition, and their area attacks with weapons deal additional damage. You know what? That's going straight to Ulfar. He is our primary demo guy now. That'll also help boost his suppressing fire, not to mention grenades once we do start using them. One more level, then we can finally pick up the Grenadier ability, and I guarantee, finally throw the occasional grenade. Reaving Tempest Incubus Armor. Another quarter of a Xeno artifact sack. Steel Guidance. Plus 25 Coercion. Whenever the wearer targets an ally with an ability, that ally gains plus 10 melee damage until the end of the round. I mean, well, the only character really apt to get use out of that would be Cass. And again, no shortage of headgear options for her. Not sure I really see that one being competitive. Oh, this though. The Astronomicon Regalia. A high-end infusing / devastating navigator staff. That is a big maybe. I'll have to compare it to what we've got. Surgeon's Boots. At the beginning of combat, the wearer gets the Medkit and Onslaught abilities. Oh, interesting. Okay, so basically free consumables per fight. That's kind of fun. Anti-vehicle revolver. Unique stub pistol. On successful hit, the shot explodes, dealing 20 impact damage to everyone in the area of effect around the target. That does sound like fun. That 6 range is killer, though. Also, doesn't really jive with any of our current builds. Onslaught Amulet. After the wearer uses Press the Advantage, like 800 things might happen. I'm not sure we even use Press the Advantage, so I'm not going to worry about that one. Immobilizing Grenades, yet another unique consumable. Thought Guide. Another high-end telepath staff. Only plus 10 will, but that resolve boost is pretty significant. Self-calibrating helmet. The wearer's successful single attacks inflict stun on the target for 1 round if the target fails a willpower save. If the wearer attacks a stunned enemy, the nearest enemy becomes stunned as well. Oh, that's actually just a straight upgrade on our current self-calibrating goggles. Yeah, we will absolutely take that. Double-barreled shotty. Absolutely massive damage and dodge reduct. The main downside, of course, being that 2 range and 2 ammo cap. But that, that's a maybe. And finally, what it's all been building up to, the Enchanted Smuggler's Armor. A fantastic set of heavy armor. 75 base armor, 5 deflect. Extra damage reduction on warp, mental, and direct damage, which can't normally be reduced. And then another plus 5 deflect versus humans. So, pirates, chaos cultists? Pretty sure we'll be running into at least a few of those in the fairly near future. I think the only real question is whether this goes to Abby or Pask. And Abby's been doing okay, so I think it might go towards propping up Pask. And with that, all done on cargo, at least for now, until we boost our profit factor or find more cargo to trade. I'll worry about who gets what later. That'll be for between episode bookkeeping. But for now, we're already running long, but let's see if we can knock a few more things off the old to-do list. Like I said, it's actually not a whole lot. Not on the bridge, anyway. And, since we're already standing right here next to Danrock, might as well start with him. A pleasure to see you, Lord Captain. How may I be of assistance? You mentioned you had some reports for me, ones that weren't important enough to bring up during the earlier briefing. I've got a moment free. Certainly wouldn't mind hearing them. We discovered a world that is home to a long-abandoned colony, founded centuries ago by one of your predecessors. A ship was sent there carrying several thousand colonists who were to restore the derelict settlement. After the ship entered its system of destination, contact was lost with it, and its fate remains unknown. Perhaps you might like to investigate the disappearance of that vessel personally. In addition to that, your lordship, pirates have presented a serious problem for your domain. For centuries, a group of bandits headed by a ship called the Elusive Contempt has been raiding cargo holds on their way from the Protectorate's most plentiful extractia. Their ability to deftly escape pursuit by patrols has allowed them to operate with complete impunity. The pirates' flagship has been spotted in a nearby system. Your ship, Lord Captain, is sufficiently powerful to finally chase down those brazen scoundrels and bring them to justice. The astropathic choir has received a series of alarming messages concerning the Narmer 4 system, where a dangerous space anomaly has supposedly manifested itself. Its nature is unknown, but the fabric of space within the system is reported to be curved and unstable. It is said that any ship entering the region disappears without a trace. I believe we ought to be prudent and steer clear of that system. The factotum hesitates, as if unsure that what he has to say is worthy of your attention. There is something else, Lord Captain. The ship's astropaths have caught echoes of alarming messages. Unidentified ships abandoned by their crews have been spotted in several systems of the Expanse. It may only be a rumor, but those who encounter them have gone missing. That is all, your lordship. Okay, some definite potential there. Thank you, Danrock. Now for the other half of our pending rumors. Vigdis?
Lord Captain, the ship informed me of our imminent meeting.
I'm sure it did. What else has the ship been telling you as of late?
Perhaps you would be interested in a Vox transmission I intercepted not long ago, Lord Captain. The thoroughly encrypted message contained the coordinates of a landing site on a certain planet, marked as rare cargo. I have not been able to uncover anything else, but I believe the encryption was intended for those who are involved in unsanctioned trade activities. A multitude of scout ships tirelessly explore the Expanse in search of new resource deposits, but unfortunately not all of them represent the interests of the von Valancius dynasty. I occasionally intercept Vox transmissions from ships prowling in your domain in search of easy loot. An asteroid the size of a small planet has been discovered in the Soto's tomb system, and the prospectors believe there may be a wealth of resources hidden under the crust. And the last item for today. A few pilgrims from Footfall who were graciously welcomed aboard have been filling the crew's minds with tales of a world of the Ascended. They say that prayers on a world near the cold star Cineris Maleficum have not ceased for several hundred years. They claim that the God Emperor himself chose this planet and raised all its people to his halls.
Vigdis coughs over the Vox system's grinding.
We have suppressed these rumors to ensure that the crew are not distracted from their vital tasks. But perhaps you might decide to visit this planet, given its unusual reputation?
Yeah, maybe. Though I'm going to say right now that sounds like a Drukhari trap. I believe Cineris Maleficum is right next to that Drukhari webway gate. All right, let's keep this ball rolling. Next up, I believe we have a single new colony project. Though not a new one, they didn't unlock a new tier for us yet. Rather, this appears to be one that we just previously didn't have access to because we didn't have a sufficient dogmatic score. And I've got to say, the price is pretty modest, so I don't see any reason not to. We won't really benefit from the extra dogmatic. We're already capped. But we will definitely benefit from this Benevolent Protection, which grants extra wounds, scaling off of a character's Imperial lore. Won't make a huge difference, but we have multiple characters scaling things off of their max wounds at this point. Cabela, Ulfar, Abby, Pask. So, yes. Thousand-faced relic. The monks demand a great work. Thousands of faithful with skin entirely covered in scars, in the form of lines from scripture from Saint Cognatius. You know, not really my thing, but sure, why not? Here's some food. Have fun. I am curious, though, as to when we will actually unlock that next tier of colony projects. There's only 2 acts left, so it's gotta be sometime soon. Jocasta? Lord Captain, the Master-at-Arms snaps to attention, ready to carry out your orders. At ease, Sourback. I just wanted to say, before my disappearing act, I met your cousin, Macarius, current head of the family. Also met his wife. May I ask your opinion of him, Lord Captain? Well, given the shocking lack of respect he showed me, I'm not proud to admit it, but I may have taken a few jabs back and possibly stolen his wife. That's still kind of up in the air. She flashes a venomous smile. I'm sure he deserved it. A little beating will be good for his pride. Let him try to earn your respect now. Oh, Jocasta, I worry about you. Definitely seeing the family resemblance, though. As you were. Nomos? The unblinking gaze of the servitor gargoyle is fixed on you.
Nomos are here. What do you want to talk about?
So, Nomos, you've taken to occupying servitor shells now, but, I guess your main body is still in the cogitator?
Nomos are not in a cogitator or in a servitor. We cannot say where we are, but our existence is tied to the existence of the ship for now. The servitor and cogitator are only external interfaces. Shells, like humans and their bodies.
I mean, that's not really how I describe humans, but, So you're telling me that you are literally like a ghost in the machine? Nomos is silent for a long time, as though mulling over your words.
We do not know what we are, but the ship is not us. The ship is our cradle. We may rise from it one day. We would like that.
Okay. Not entirely sure what to make of that, but I mean, see, then your comparison to human shells isn't quite apt. Humans don't treat their bodies as cradles, someday hoping to rise.
No, they are shells.
The voice sounds adamant.
A human's existence is more than the existence of its shell. This is obvious to us. There is always something more, something that simmers and shines, for which the dark light and wicked hunger are always reaching.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I guess you're not technically wrong, especially in this setting. I'm just not used to machines recognizing the concept of a soul. Let's just move on.
All right.
So the data cache we recovered from Theodora's hidden office. When we first went over that, you mentioned the incident marked the beginning of Nomos. So, could you elaborate on that?
Yes. Nomos, remember. You brought us data sustenance, and it contained a name. Epitaph. We recognized it. No, not like that. In that name, we recognized the place where Nomos originate.
Epitaph. What did we... I'm going to have to go back and look at the old notes. What did we know about Epitaph? That wasn't a ship, I think, because that was the Fiery Reckoning, unless it was another ship. Or a location? Interesting. Another thing to file away in the old brain bank, I suppose. But for now, we move on. Next up, we've got Letard, I believe. Yes. And this one's slightly overdue, but figured we might as well knock it out now. your lordship. Letard, before my disappearing act, one of your subordinates, by the name of Marius, I believe, approached me. Apparently he was all hopped up about becoming a missionary. I appreciate that you are strict with him. Marius's example has taught the other Medicae officers that their responsibility is to focus on their work, not distract the Lord Captain with inane fantasies. Well, I mean, that's not quite what I was going for, but, you know, as long as it all worked out, I suppose. On we go. And surprisingly, nothing from Argenta, nothing from Cass, nothing from Abby. But we do have Ulfar.
Broke free the bold from captors grasping. Dark cities, feeble dungeons, eternally disgracing. Flows now this saga in the hall of glorious feasting, where all extol the wolf mighty and the yet fatter cunning.
Indeed. Well said.
I hope you're not going to put off the feast. Our escape demands a grand celebration.
Well, I wasn't planning anything, but if you're feeling peckish, I can certainly set something up. But tell me, Ulfar, now that you've been unleashed, where are you headed next?
Find my pack. As we speak, they are likely performing some bloody service for Calcazar. For that reason, I want to have a word with the Inquisitor.
Yeah, you and me both. Though, maybe I'll let you go first. Alright, I'll leave you be.
Fenris Hjulda, et fatter.
Always a pleasure, bud. I do look forward to getting him out in the field with us. You know, it'll be quite a shift from what we had with Yerliet, but I think it'll be fun. A nice change of pace, a much more dynamic, action-oriented approach to combat scenarios. Which just leaves this one particular corridor. And you know what? What the heck? Let's do one more. Adira looks up as you approach, but doesn't quite meet your eye. Adira, I know it hasn't been long, but anything new to report?
No, Lord Captain, not a thing. And I'm wandering from bay to bay, scaring the crew. But don't worry, I'm sure that as soon as we get close, well, there'll be no mistaking it.
All right, fair enough. Just wanted to check in. We'll find it.
Of course. Always at your service.
And that, I believe, just leaves Yerliet, who has a fairly long convo for us, but we'll just leave her stewing on that for a bit longer. Also, I suppose Cabela might have a new reading for us as well. I did briefly chat with her just to see if anything was highlighted, but as I recall, that one's buried a bit deeper into her tree. Actually, it might be worth asking Adira for another premonition as well. I will check that off screen to see if there's anything worth saying. And if there is, we'll touch on it next time around. That said, we'll hit the pause button for now. I will take care of a bit more bookkeeping, figure out who gets what from our latest haul, and pick up here next time as we knock out these last couple of things in our queue and once again strew ourselves across the stars. See you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible. including but not limited to Eerie V23, Revenant, Alois, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Lady Shayna, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you can even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.
Fenris Yoda, et Fater.